We're going to finish off the sleeves, and the last and final piece to this actual project is to put the lining down. So now that we have all of our flap finished, we have this, all of this, and the buttons are on both sleeves. So now we're going to turn the sleeve inside out. Turn both sleeves inside out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay both of these out. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a little bit of this. We're going to cut a little bit of this allowance off. Just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is cut some of that. This is only roughly about almost an inch. We're just going to cut that off right there at the line of where it was creased. I'm going to cut these off. It's going to make it a little bit easier, number one, to have a nice clean finish without that crease, that folded fabric. I'm going to do that and cut that off. And we'll do the same on the other side. Now you typically would just kind of cut off whatever it is that you hemmed it, you would cut that amount off. And then we're going to do a replacement of where the finished lining should fall. Okay. And so now I want to make sure that the sleeve is all the way down, the line is all the way down. There's nothing keeping it from being up there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold in the lining. And we want to start where we fold it in should come almost to the edge of the finish of the actual sleeve. Because what we want to do is we want to create a little bit of slack in the sleeve, so when they're bending and moving, that it's not a tight tension there. So we bring it down to where it's maybe like 1/4 of an inch, almost to the edge of the finished hem. So we're going to bring it there. Now that we have that established, so we're bringing the lining, folding it in, and having it almost to the edge of where it meets the actual edge of the finished sleeve, but maybe like 1/4 of an inch shy of that. And now we're just going to separate it from there. We're going to pin this all the way around, because this is actually our finish for our lining. This is what this is. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other sleeve. Just make sure you always repeat the same thing. Make sure everything is nice and straight and smooth. There's nothing constricting that will throw off our finish or throw off what we're trying to do. And just fold it up. Make sure it's like about 1/4 from the hem. We're going to separate that area, separate that lining from that, pin that where we have it folded. Just pin it separate. It's not going to be attached yet. Just pin it separate. So this is our initial pinning that we're pinning separate. Okay. There. Boom. And then what we're going to do now is so that we can create that slack. And that's how we create the slack, because we made it come all the way down just about to where the finished sleeve is. So it's almost the same length as the sleeve lining, but we don't want it, but not quite. And now we're just going to make sure that our seams are lined up. First of all, always start with the inner side. Always start with your inner seam and match it up. Make sure you match it up here. So we got a seam here, and we have our inner seam here. Make sure you match that up. And now instead of bringing it all the way down where we had it, we're going to bring it up like another 1/4. So it would roughly be about 1/2 of an inch up. We're going to take the pins that we have here. We're going to go ahead and pin all the way through the lining and the actual sleeve, positioning it where we're going to actually do our hemming. So slide that up so that it is all the way up about a 1/2 inch, and that's going to create our slack that we need. Okay, and as you can see, when you have the sleeve here, now you see, let's see if we can see it here, but now you see that there's a little bit of a slack here, and that's what we want, is a little bit of slack. So when they're bending and moving, you have that little area of extra, so that it's not so tense, because what you don't want is for it to end up being a bubble on the outside. You rather have a bubble on the inside that you can work with for flexing. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So always start with your inner seam. Make sure they're lined up. This is our inner seam. Oops, let's see. Hold on. Hold on. See, sometimes it gets off. See how that inner seam is there? And that inner seam is there. And let's make sure this is the inner seam and this is the inner seam. Now we're going to bring that over to that inner seam. That keeps you from getting in trouble. So always check yourself. So again, we're going to bring it up where it actually is a 1/4, but we're going to bring it up to the 1/2 mark. And you can mark it if you need to mark. If you're not that familiar with where 1/2 inch is, you can always put a mark on the inside, and that will let you know where you need to place the edge of the lining. Just bring it up. We're going to take the pin all the way through. So the pin that we were holding the sleeve lining finish down with, we're going to take it and just pin it all the way through now. Okay, and we have our little 1/4 inch slack that we've created. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually sew this in place. Like, you don't want to have 2 or 4 layers of thread for this, because this is a delicate part and we don't want so much thread to be working with. We don't need it for that, because this is actually just a tacking. So we're going to tack this. So what we're going to do is we're going to tack just in between. So it's going to pick it up here at the fabric, at the inside of the fabric, and you don't want to go all the way through to the other side, because you don't want to see any threads. So you're picking it up here, just going to knot it off, and then we're going to go, it's going to be like a weave, like back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. So you're going to catch the lining, then you're going to catch the fabric again, and you're going to catch the lining, you're going to catch the fabric. And I'm going to show you a little bit of trick that'll help you too, because sometimes these threads get tangled, especially when they have a single layer, but they always want to get tangled. It doesn't even matter. At this point, it's always something. You can use a little bit of your chalk, and you can use a little bit of your chalk, and you can just run that chalk right down here. And that gives it a little bit of waxing, a little bit of lube there, just to keep it from tangling. Okay? So now we're going to catch the lining. So we're going to go back, catch the lining, catch the fabric. Catch the lining, catch the fabric. Hopefully you can see this. I'm trying to see here. You can see. Let's make sure. Okay. Catch the lining and catch the fabric. Like so. Catch the lining, catch the fabric. Catch the lining, and you don't want to go all the way through the lining. You just want to catch the inner part and then catch the fabric. Okay. Catch the lining, catch the fabric. Just going right in between. You do like an in-between stitch. Just catch the lining, catch the fabric. Like so. Okay. Hope you're seeing it. Catch the lining, catch the fabric. Catch the lining, catch the fabric. And you just keep doing it all the way around until you get back to the other side. Lining, fabric. lining, fabric. And just, like I said, just keep going through. My thread's getting a little wacky-o. Okay, and so just keep going through that.